Hey there, it's Tony here, and welcome to episode 33 of the Dumb Leaders podcast. Today, I'm taking aim, and I've been up and down about whether to actually do this one, but I'm taking aim at Flat Earth, and I'm taking aim at the dumb followers following even dumber leaders. So taking aim at the cults of the Flat Earth is not usually something that we would want to do, and it's something that I've become, I suppose, increasingly aware of. I started listening to some Flat Earth debunkers on YouTube, and I realise and recognise the power that's starting to occur within this movement. And there's a real reason behind this, but I'm going to share some of what I know and some of the stuff that I've learnt. Because the reality is and while Flat Earth is the topic, this could relate to pretty much anything where we're spreading false narratives. So I'm talking about the failed leadership in terms of the Flat Earth movement or the Globe Denier movement or whatever you want to call it. And the agenda of which it's based purely on. And that agenda is about generating revenue from YouTube. Now, there's been a little bit in the Flat Earth and debunking community of late about how YouTube is demonetizing or some of these areas that are set to inflame or spreading fake news or false narratives or whatever the case may be. And I actually have to say it's about time. So, and I don't necessarily mind that, but you'll see later on in the podcast, I'm going to share some of the numbers that you can find out what some of these people are making via YouTube. And I think then you'll start to realize what it's all about. But let's look at the origins first about Flat Earth. Now, it's centered predominantly around a Bible narrative of a world with the filament. The Flat Earth movement rolled through with conspiracy theories emanating around fake moon landings, CGI photos of space, and this global conspiracy to defraud our thinking. When people ask why would they put together this conspiracy or this theory about we're living on a globe, they'll always say that it's something that's been designed by them, and it's designed to make us feel insignificant and small and in our place. And really that's about it. The only person that I know that can make me feel insignificant is me. And the only person that can make you feel insignificant is you, and that presents the issue. We have a lot of people who feel insignificant and without purpose, who suddenly feel better about themselves by peddling this brand of BS and presenting dumb experiments that provide or prove that the world is flat. And I'm saying dumb experiments. Now, I've seen a multitude of flat earthers, and as I said, I've been watching this as a little bit of entertainment, I guess, but it's scary entertainment because I've seen a multitude of flat earthers presenting as evidence things like toy cars and toy planes on a desk stand of a standard size, like of a standard desktop globe. Now, they do this without any commentary around the scale of these two objects. So we see a truck the size of like the United States on the globe, and then we see this thing that debunks the globe of this truck the size of a country that's unable to stay driving on a globe, on a desktop globe. And when you think about it, the scale of that toy car is probably 1 in 24 or 1 in 32 or something like that. The scale of a globe is 1 to 40 million. So the scale is just totally misrepresented on so many aspects in so many of these experiments. So you've got a toy plane the size of Australia being shown to conclusively debunk the globe. Seriously? Are we serious? And even the words they use, like the words that are being used, like, do you believe that we're living on a spinning ball? Is designed to defraud. It's designed to give us the impression that we're just on this little ball that's spinning at like some immense amount of time. And, you know, the sheer size of the globe and the space is... the sheer size of the globe and the pace in which we spin can never be represented by someone holding a basketball or a tennis ball or a soccer ball and spinning it. It just can never be, because once again, the scale is just incredibly just not catered for in these experiments. You know, one of my favourites, and I've only stumbled across this guy recently, was a debunker. He's a Globe Denier. And he's a bit older and very Christian, and he used the toy plane experiment on a globe. But before he did, he went out of his way to talk up his credentials, you know, to show that I am not a fool. I am not a fool. Criminal lawyer, maths degree, rah, to show that he was not a fool. And then he did an experiment to show that he was indeed a fool. So using two objects, and, you know, especially with a maths degree, surely in maths there's something there in relation to scale. Now, seriously out of scale, seriously out of whack, but he's not a fool. He's not a fool. But then he proved that he is. You know, it's entertainment of the highest regard. And if it was only entertainment, I wouldn't have an issue with it. You know, where some of the times for myself is spent catching glimpses of the flat earth community, sharing their version of science and the experiments that prove their point. Concepts of intricate science are discarded. Gravity is seemingly disproved all the time. And the theory that they have is this thing called, or some of them have, is this thing called magnetic force. But there's no proof that this force exists at all. But that doesn't worry them, because all they need to have is a theory. But they tender these theories as proof of a flat earth. They must watch like countless hours of NASA footage to pick up isolated moments that prove their theories of green screens and wires. You know, every photograph taken from space, every conclusive proof of space is disregarded with the cry of, it's fake, it's obviously fake. It's CGI, it's Photoshop. Now, if that was to play out in real world, you can imagine a murderer standing up in trial saying it's fake, it's all fake, and how far that would go. I rest my case. Everything's fake. Yeah, right. You know, I've seen experiments on swinging gates. That was a classic. I've seen balloons. I've seen eggs. I've seen Earth represented as like a square pizza flying through space. The sun's round, the moon's round, the planets are round, but Earth's like a pizza box. Not sure about that one. They trot out the same names, you know, and there's probably less than 10 of them of people who've subscribed to flat Earth theories throughout history, you know. And the convenience here is that they decry the thousands who have actually proved that Earth is a globe and revolves around the sun. It's all a NASA conspiracy to protect their $20 billion budget, or so we're told, and to make us feel insignificant in this world of infinity. And I might just add, a world of infinity means that we actually have unlimited potential, not insignificance. But let's just think for a moment what this conspiracy of the flat Earth would mean. Firstly, there's 70 countries that have space programs, and 13 have actually launched. You know, places like Russia, China, Japan, India, Europe, just to name a few. So already this NASA conspiracy has got new complexity. But what also happened before NASA? And who coordinated the conspiracy then? Now, I saw a flat earther with a model of his flat earth, and it was really interesting because there's a strait on the there's a place in the world called the Bering Strait, and it separates the USA, Alaska, to the Russian mainland. Now, the strait at its narrowest places, these countries are just 53 miles apart. And that can be travelled by a variety of means. A small plane. You're not actually allowed to land in Russia from what I've read, but you can certainly fly. So you can't take a boat over, although it's possible. Now, so it's only a short distance. So the travel of a small plane would indicate that it's only a short distance. But on a flat Earth model, this plane flight would traverse like thousands of kilometres. So it just doesn't make sense. And it just doesn't make sense. We've got photos there of the Bering Strait. We've got plans and agreements of people wanting to put in a tunnel in the Bering Strait. Now, no one would be building a tunnel that's thousands of kilometres long that would actually, on a flat Earth map, have to barrel underneath much of the continent of Canada, I'd imagine. So it just doesn't work. Now, the conspiracy relies on millions and millions of people. Now, just going back to the Bering Strait, putting that tunnel in would be a hard one for them to debunk. So while the tunnel has been proposed many, many times, obviously if it ever happened, that would potentially run some serious damage to the flat Earth community. But I guess that they'd cry that it's fake. So the conspiracy has relied on millions of people keeping the secret. And you would think that out of those millions of people, you would have within the group of the flat Earth community, you would have at its very centre someone who knew the secret. Someone who turned on the conspiracy, but they don't. They have a group of what could only maybe be described as misfits and rejects, those that don't fit in with the world and have chosen to make their own. And look, there's nothing wrong with that unless it's dangerous. But in this case, it's not just dangerous that people are falling for this, it's also the fraud that's evident within this. And it is getting movement, but it's also losing momentum. And I'll explain that in just a sec. So let's look at the methodology of how they prove the Earth is flat. They disregard results from their experiments that show anything outside of what they think. They use the exception to explain the everyday. A case in point is refraction, and that is used to explain boats going over the horizon. They cherry-pick science. Now, it's interesting. They say the science is fake, but they cherry-pick what they want to use if, in their eyes, it helps their theories. All other theories are just simply fake or part of the conspiracy. They get debunked each and every day, but believe their belief and theory stands above that debunking. They are selective, they are deceptive. And that's the reality. Let's look at the leader of this movement. He's a nondescript guy called Mark Sargent. Now, we have him at the Flat Earth Conference speaking. He had apparently put out an open question to the scientific community asking for answers to 5 questions. Now, in true Flat Earth fashion, old Mark informed us that no one had taken up the challenge. So let's just think about that for a sec. Did he imagine that the world scientific community are sitting around waiting to hear from him? I wonder what Mark's going to challenge us on next, let alone take up the challenge. In all honesty, Mark, if any of the world scientific community are aware of you, it would only be to have some light entertainment. Why would they take any challenge seriously anyway? You would simply refuse to accept the results. You would call it fake, because that's the way that you do this thing. If it doesn't fit your model, your belief, your deceptions, you share that it must be fake. But wait, all is not lost. We had one scientist who allegedly would attempt to answer the question. I say allegedly. Now, bear this in mind. Those 5 questions are basic high school science, generally. But apparently we had a German TV team who had found a physicist from Georgetown University. A German TV team who found a physicist from Georgetown University that Mark could debate. No mention of names, mind you, either of the TV crew or of the scientist. No mention of names. And why would a German TV crew even have a slight interest in a university in Washington, D.C. is just beyond myself and I'd imagine most people. And the TV crew told Mark that they would set it up to take it easy on the scientist. And they did that by basically swapping video footage of each other. Now, apparently the scientist was made out by Mark to be nothing more than a buffoon by having no answer to any of his questions. Now, it's important to note, the credibility behind this is absolutely zilch. No names from either the German TV crew or the scientist who was brave enough to take on Mark in a debate. Now, it's also important to note that no footage of this exists. Okay? And you would think that if a German TV crew put this together, they have certainly been negligent, especially if it was such a damning indictment of the Globe model. You would think that it would be somewhere. It would be on national news, but no, nothing. No name of the scientist, no name of the crew, no footage. How convenient. And the only proof that we have of anything is the fact that Mark was grandstanding about it at the Flat Earth conference. Yes. It's that big, they have a Flat Earth conference. Now, interesting, those questions were debunked time and time again by our internet debunkers. Yet a physicist at Georgetown connected by a German TV crew just couldn't answer. No credibility. Yet the followers lapped this up. No credibility. The only place that I believe this Q&A existed was in Mark's world. Again, a TV crew videotaped this. Check it out. This isn't groundbreaking stuff, is it? A scientist not answering basic questions and fueling a flat earth fantasy, yet no record exists? A TV crew allegedly videotaped this, but no footage exists. What does that say? Mark makes a statement that the scientist folded like a card table and the footage was never aired. Consider seriously how likely this was to happen. Now, Mark's featured in 2 more documentaries, one by National Geographic and the more recent Behind the Curve documentary. Now, in the National Geographic documentary, an experiment occurred. An experiment was provided by the crew of the National Geographic. And the experiment was about a crew on a boat going over the horizon. I won't necessarily talk in much detail around what the experiment proved, but on a flat Earth, needless to say, the results would have been different from the results that they got. Now, Mark was present and was actually depicted as being a little bit tongue-tied. And I believe that he said that they had other explanations for what had just happened. Not provided, of course. They just had other explanations for why the boat or part of the boat or part of the sign that they had on the boat was missing as the boat went over the horizon. Now, Mark was also in Behind the Curve documentary, but it was 2 others that took centre stage there. I'm not even going to mention their names, but they conducted research that conclusively proved we live on a globe. We live on a very large globe. And one of those experiments was with a laser gyroscope and another one with light over distance. And both experiments aired on the doco. Now, the backlash for that has been basically unbelievable. How could this charade keep going? Wouldn't these two get kicked out of the flat earth movement? Haven't they just debunked their own belief? Won't this now just go away? Oh no. Oh no. In the documentary, right, now the one who conducted the experiment with the laser gyro actually proved that there's rotation of 15 degrees an hour, and thus proving the globe. Now, he confided to another flat earther in the doco that the results actually didn't look good. But, and this was the kicker, that information was confidential. And this starts to give you a bit of an understanding of what it's really all about. Now, since the doco came out, you'd imagine that these two would be shunned. And yes, they have seen there has been some isolated aggression, I will give them that. So there was a rant online from an FE, a flat earther, telling all and sundry how annoyed he was that they even did the experiment. And he was saying things like, if the experiment doesn't work, don't do it. If it doesn't show flat, no one else can see it. It doesn't get filmed only if it shows the results that we want. So this is science. Or as they say, it's science. You know, if it doesn't show flat earth outcome, you don't talk about it. Do the test beforehand and don't tell anybody the results if it proves us wrong. And then he goes on to say, you're making my job harder. Not sure what that job is, but maybe that job is that he sees his job as convincing people that the Earth's not a globe. Now, both of those people have now come back into the community, come onto YouTube live streams and said things like they redid the experiments and the experiments now prove the Earth is flat. Once again, nothing exists, just their word. Plus, they're laying the fault purely at the doco makers. So here we have two flat earthers conducting two experiments which were filmed, which conclusively debunk the flat earth theory, then being caught out being deceptive and being fraudulent. Now saying, without credibility, that it's all the fault of the doco makers and that they were being selective. And the followers lap it up. And the followers lap it up. Now, there's a couple of different YouTube channel estimators there on what certain channels potentially may be making. Now, I don't know how accurate they are, but they're interesting. And when you run the model of some of these flat earth people and their channels on YouTube, it's really interesting. For example, on one channel with a subscriber base of 143,000, the estimated revenue on that, because it's estimated on both subscriber count and video views, so you just can't go out there and buy followers because they're not going to watch the video anyway. So they need to be real subscribers and I'd imagine real video views. $185,000 is the estimate that particular channel earns. You know, even Mark Sargent himself on one of his channels, estimated revenue is $36,000. Now, one of the debunkers, and this is why I'm thinking it's a bit of an industry, because while they go off at each other and they place comments and they're nasty to each other at times, probably more so on the flat earth side than the debunkers side. The reality is that on one of the main debunkers' channel, his estimated revenue was 175k. Now, as I said, I don't know how real that is, but even if that was half, right, that's still decent money. So this is a business. So let's not lose sight of that. This is a business. They are making great money. So why do anything else when you can do live YouTube videos, sprouting a bit of BS, picking up subs and views, and of course the advertising revenue that comes with that? Now, I have no doubt that some in the flat earth community actually believe the earth is flat. But you must believe that others don't. And they're in it for the money. They saw the gravy train and they jumped on board, and they're deceptively peddling a lie. Being incredibly deceptive, misleading and fraudulent, and bringing maybe thousands of gullible people along for the ride. Now, Mark Sargent reminds me of that awkward kid at school. Pleasant enough, polite enough, hard to connect with. And he's found his own little piece of celebrity. And he's been attracting fellow misfits ever since. Now, we understand from the studies around, mental health and whatnot, that there is a small percentage of people with a mental disposition to, for conspiracy theories. Schizophrenia, for example, is people suffering from that are prone to conspiracy theories. And these are the ones that are coming along for the ride. They're being taught that it's okay to be selective in your results. I would imagine that some of them are sitting back and thinking, oh, that doesn't sound right. Why did he take that bit of theory and not that bit of theory? Why are they saying that? But they're going along for the ride because they belong. They belong to this community. And look, I wouldn't mind. People have the right to believe whatever they want to believe, but this is really quite dangerous. And I might add, it's dangerous because we stop believing in everything. Now, I think we have a right to question stuff. We absolutely do. But not question everything. These people are being taught that it's okay to be selective in results, being taught that if something doesn't fit the results that you want, bury it, being taught that everything that proves otherwise is fake. And seriously, that's not the way to live life. Yes, question, no dramas with that, but accept the evidence. Do scientific testing. Not the stuff that's going to suit your model. In flat earth terms, that's thousands of years of proof and evidence, not the 8 to 9 theorists that stuck with the flat earth model in the overwhelming face of evidence. It's sad that it has grown to the industry that it has. But we can see that those at the top of the food chain of the flat earth community and the flat earth debunking community are certainly reaping the rewards. Now, finally, I just want to say that the Flat Earth community derided the International Treaty of Antarctica and the International Space Station. Now, over 50 countries have signed a treaty that Antarctica that originally came into force in 1961. The ISS is a project of 5 international space agencies. Now, these agreements, according to the Flat Earth, are a source of suspicion. And quite rightly, I guess, the Flat Earth point out the inconsistencies with those agreements and what they see in reality around the world. But I see it quite differently. So while countries, and I'm talking major countries, especially like Russia, China, the USA, are sometimes verbaling each other, they collaborate in so many ways. They collaborate with trade. They collaborate in the United Nations, just to name a few. And isn't international peace and collaboration a good thing? It certainly doesn't deserve to be derived or stated as fake by the misguided few. If we can get 50 countries agreeing on the terms of the Antarctica treatment, that, and let's face it, like Antarctica is not certainly on the places where I'd like to live. minus anything that's in the minus degrees Celsius is certainly going to be a tough place to forge a life that's anything that could be considered enjoyable. And with the temperatures at Antarctica sometimes getting to like minus 60 degrees, I'm pretty certain there's other places that you would want to live. But the fact that we've got 50 countries that have agreed on this is a good thing, isn't it? It shouldn't be a thing for suspicion. And it's certainly not fake. So I just urge you, make up your own minds. Question things, absolutely. And that includes questioning these conspiracy theories. But remember, there's people at the top of this food chain that are earning significant income out of this. It's about the money. Focus on what you can control. Question what doesn't make sense. This is not a worldwide conspiracy out there purposely making you feel small and insignificant. That can only happen within you. So stand up, be tall and straight, and don't become a dumb follower of an even dumber leader. That's episode 33 of the Dumb Leaders podcast. We shall see you next time.